Ukraine has created a true iron monster. It's cooler than American Tomahawks. This missile of the Ukrainian armed forces strikes farther, faster, and more accurately. Allies are impressed, the Kremlin is shocked. Ukraine's hellish bird, the Flamingo, ushers in a new era of weaponry. No permission from allies is needed to strike deep into Russia. The front is boiling. The Russian offensive is drowning in blood. Pokrovsk holds, Ukrainians stand, the enemy falls. Syrskyi made an emergency statement. There is not only a plan B. Obrey buried Putin's army. I'll tell you all the details in a moment. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Victoria Panchenko, and here are the latest events. Better than Tomahawk. Ukraine has created a weapon that changes the rules of the game. The Ukrainian defense industry is making a tremendous leap forward. Engineers are combining old Soviet technologies with cutting-edge IT developments to break free from dependence on allies. The new Ukrainian cruise missile, the Flamingo, is not just an analog, but a real monster that surpasses the American Tomahawk. And most importantly, no permission from allies is needed to strike Russia. This is reported by The Independent. The British publication revealed the specifications of the Ukrainian long-range weapon.
It has a flight range of up to 3,000 kilometers. Its maximum speed is 900 kilometers per hour. The warhead can carry over a ton of explosives.
According to journalists, the price of the Ukrainian missile is about the same as that of the American Tomahawks, but the result is twice as impressive. The Independent notes that at the heart of the Ukrainian missile are Soviet-era turbofan engines, literally dug up from scrapyards. But thanks to Ukrainian IT engineers, these old pieces of metal have been transformed into high-precision weapons. Production is in full swing, and the results have impressed even our allies. Ukrainian ballistics are reaching their peak. Mass production of the Flamingo has been launched, and now there is 4 times more fire and fury. The Kremlin is in shock. Our factories are working at full capacity, creating the arsenal for future victory. This is a mega weapon that could put a final end to the war. Details coming up in just a moment.
A new level and scale, Ukraine is ramping up the production of cruise missiles. The developers of the Ukrainian Flamingo missile have announced that the company produces 50 missiles per month and plans to reach a daily output of 7 missiles by the end of the year. The company claims that scaling up is made possible by their proprietary wing manufacturing technology, which shortens the production cycle. It should be noted that the Ukrainian missile is capable of flying 3,000 kilometers and carrying a ton of explosives. In August, the Flamingo struck Russian targets in temporarily occupied Crimea. Early in the morning, 3 missiles were launched from the Ukrainian coast. A base of Russian border guards controlled by the aggressor's Federal Security Service was hit. Additionally, the Flamingo's manufacturers announced the development of their own FP-7 and FP-9 ballistic missiles as well as air defense systems. Thanks to private companies, Ukraine can create innovations in the defense industry and effectively implement them on the battlefield. Exactly.
During the years of the full-scale invasion, the Ukrainian defense sector has made a revolutionary breakthrough in Ukrainian production. A modernized version of Neptune. The anti-ship version of Neptune was modernized to strike ground targets, and at the moment, as a result of improved tactical and technical characteristics, according to the developers, Neptune's range can reach up to 1,000 kilometers. In addition, the Ukrainian Defense Forces already have the operational tactical complex Apsan, which I have mentioned before, with a strike range of up to 500 kilometers. Plus, during the years of war, the Ukrainian Defense Forces have demonstrated a unique ability to modernize even Soviet-era weapon systems. We're talking about the S-200 surface-to-air missile system.
Another of the most important developments has been missile drones, such as Palyanitsia, Peklo, Ruta, and Bars.
During the period of the full-scale invasion, Ukraine's defense industry has evolved rapidly in the production of its own equipment. And of course, let's not forget about strike drones. Here, Ukraine. According to Kelaha, this is official recognition of Ukraine's successes.
The armed forces of Ukraine are successfully striking military targets in the Russian Federation. Oil refineries are in the crosshairs of unmanned systems. Drone attacks have disabled up to 17% of Russia's oil refining capacity. Ukraine is also actively working on the production of interceptor drones. The Minister of Defense stated that Kyiv will soon reach the capacity to deploy at least 1,000 such UAVs per day to defend against Russian attacks.
Ukraine holds a leading position in the production of interceptor drones. This is a Ukrainian know-how. To put the situation into perspective, during the latest provocation by the Russian Federation involving the violation of Polish airspace, NATO countries' air defense systems used missiles costing $1.5 million each to neutralize Gerund drones worth $10,000. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian side is currently actively increasing and expanding the so-called drone wall tactic, specifically the use of interceptor drones.
Ukraine is also developing a new air defense system of the air-to-air class, capable of covering large areas. All this means that Ukrainian developers have demonstrated the ability to create high-precision weaponry capable of destroying important enemy military targets at long range. Ukraine has truly made a breakthrough in the production of the most powerful missiles. Long-range Flamingos and Neptunes are already actively striking military and energy targets deep behind enemy lines. Watch the fiery details right now.
The consequences of the war unleashed by Russia are starting to return to its own territory, in the form of Ukrainian drones and long-range missiles. The General Staff suggests that after Belgorod, Muscovites themselves may soon experience what a blackout is like.
Butanova, Yevgenina, Perekrestok, Metapor, all are operational.
Meanwhile, two more Russian regions, Tyumen and Sverdlovsk oblasts, have introduced restrictions on gasoline sales, no more than 30 liters per person. Previously, this new regulation had already affected the Khabarovsk Krai, Chelyabinsk Oblast, and the occupied Crimea. All these lines and empty gas stations are due to daily attacks on oil refineries. Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi stated that in September, under the Deep Strike program, 70 hits were reported on the territory of the Russian Federation.
We are destroying the production of fuel and lubricants, explosives, and other components of the Russian military-industrial complex in the aggressor country. In particular, oil refining in Russia has been reduced by 21%.
The intensification and expansion of Ukraine's so-called long-range strikes on Russian territory became one of the main topics at the president's meeting with the security bloc.
Ukrainian long-range weaponry is becoming noticeably more advanced. We are constantly working on this and have already provided many different opportunities specifically for production. The necessary finances, all the required support. We also need to significantly scale up their use. We have clear plans regarding this. Everything should be implemented in the coming months. Ukrainian precision is already evident, but there should be more of it. It is absolutely fair that Ukraine is carrying out retaliatory strikes, targeted strikes. And unlike Russia, we know what we want to achieve. Undoubtedly, we do.
Currently, the carriers of strikes deep into Russian territory are the Flamingo and Neptune missiles. The company Firepoint announced the launch of production of the former at the end of the summer. At that time, a video of the Flamingo launch appeared online. In the fall, analysts suggested, however, that they might have been launched over the territory of occupied Crimea. The publication Welt reported that it was the Flamingo that destroyed the FSB base on the peninsula. 3 missiles left craters 15 meters in diameter.
It detonated.
At that time, German journalists also reported that 50 missiles roll off the assembly line every month, with plans to increase that to 200 per month. And now the Russians have supposedly displayed the remains of a downed Flamingo missile. According to their data, it was hit on Russian territory by a Buk system at an altitude of 100 meters and a speed of 600 kilometers per hour. Judging by the serial number, the occupiers assume this is the 106 munition. Produced in September. There is no reliable confirmation that the Flamingo destroyed the FSB base. Military analysts believe that behind these successful strikes, and not only these, could have been Neptune itself. Today, 3 modifications of it have already been tested and put into serial production in the Ukrainian defense industry. A 4th is in preparation.
And right now it's undergoing tests. This is the long-range Neptune, the one that can reach over 1,000 kilometers. It's currently being tested, and let's just say the initial results have been positive. It continues to undergo tests, and at the same time, preparations are underway to put it into serial production. I firmly believe that this series of Neptunes, first of all, certainly makes the country quite capable. It reveals our true combat potential, because not every country in the world actually possesses cruise missiles. And moreover, these cruise missiles in the future will be both sea-based and land-based, and let's say of various ranges.
For obvious reasons, Ukrainian weapons manufacturers do not share much information about strikes against the aggressor. But President Zelensky admitted to the press that the defense forces even combine them. And this, analysts acknowledge, is a successful practice that Ukrainians can adopt from their enemy.
This missile most likely can be produced in larger quantities, but as a result, it may be cheaper than a high-tech missile like the Neptune missile. And here there are a whole range of combinations. Again, the Neptune missile can be used as a less detectable and more precise weapon for, let's say, clearing a corridor. Or, for example, it can be the other way around. A series of Flamingo missiles, which are very visible and inexpensive, can be used as decoys to draw the enemy's air defense forces away, while at the same time the Neptune missile slips through, and the less detectable missile delivers a more precise targeted strike.
The Ukrainian defense industry is no longer what it was at the start of Russia's full-scale aggression. The country's military and political leadership has finally realized that only local manufacturers can guarantee stable arms supplies to the front, provided there is adequate funding. But with each passing day, as more unknown drones terrorize EU skies, Europeans and Scandinavian countries are showing increasing interest not only in Ukraine's experience, but also in cooperating with Ukraine in the production of weapons that meet the realities of modern warfare.
Ukrainian defenders are also striking the enemy on the front line. Russian and Ukrainian forces continue fierce fighting in the Pokrovsk direction. However, the pace of Russian troop advances in and around Pokrovsk has temporarily slowed. This is stated in a report by analysts from the Institute for the Study of War. Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi also confirms this. Moreover, the Institute for the Study of War has not found any evidence that Russian forces have made further advances in the Pokrovsk direction.
The intensity of enemy attacks has indeed decreased. This does not mean that they want to capture Pokrovsk any less. Right now, the Russians have gathered 50,000 troops there. But they know that since October, our forces have eliminated a similar number, 30,000 Russians. In addition, the 425th Assault Regiment, which operates very effectively, has been deployed to Pokrovsk.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
It is noteworthy that the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Oleksandr Syrskyi, spoke about whether the Ukrainian command has a plan to save Ukrainian defenders in the Pokrovsk direction.
Of course, there is a Plan B and a Plan C for all possible developments.
Pokrovsk and Kupiansk really remain the hottest spots on the map of the Russian-Ukrainian war. What is happening on these sections of the front right now is covered further in the report.
The battles for control over the cities of Kupiansk and Pokrovsk, two strategic hubs on Ukraine's eastern front, do not stop for a single day. The occupiers are constantly bringing in new forces, trying to break through the defenses, but Ukrainian troops are steadfastly holding back the assault and inflicting heavy losses on the enemy.
The occupiers are using a scorched earth tactic both in the Kupiansk and Pokrovsk directions. This means massive strikes on the positions of Ukraine's defense forces. not only at the temporary deployment points of personnel, but primarily at the residential infrastructure of these cities, using various means of destruction, including heavy military systems like the TOS-1A Syrskyi. This is a thermobaric weapon which is prohibited by conventions for use in urban environments. Indiscriminate targeting, including against civilians.
Pokrovsk today is
Strikes are being carried out on the AFU positions using glide bombs.
Russian units are increasing pressure around the city and are trying to close the encirclement ring. Kremlin propaganda is already reporting a cauldron, but these statements are just another round of information manipulation. Ukraine's general staff refutes Moscow's claims of a complete encirclement. At the same time, they admit that the situation there is extremely tense.
In the past few days, the AFU has managed to significantly stabilize the situation directly in Pokrovsk itself. By order of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, special units of the Special Operations Forces of the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine and other components of Ukraine's defense forces were redeployed to Pokrovsk, where they are carrying out decisive operations aimed at eliminating small enemy assault groups.
Moreover, fighters of the 425th Separate Assault Regiment, Skalan, cleared the city council building in Pokrovsk and raised the Ukrainian flag. A symbol not only of military but also of political significance.
Special units of Ukraine's defense forces, in particular the Special Operations Forces of the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, are currently involved. They are engaged at the moment in unblocking logistics for Ukrainian defenders, specifically the routes for delivering essential ammunition and supplies, evacuating the wounded soldiers, and rotating personnel between positions. This is the main and most important task currently facing these special units.
In the Pokrovsk direction, there are also noticeable tactical successes in adjacent sectors. On the Dobropilya salient, Ukrainian defenders have taken control of the settlement of Shakov. This complicates the enemy's plans for a broad breakthrough and increases the chances for local stabilization.
This is the so-called Dobropilya incursion. Shakov itself effectively cuts off Russian units from their rear supply bases. In addition, over the past week, Ukrainian defense forces have deoccupied a number of settlements in this direction. These are Kucherev, Yarshakov, and Syrskyi. This has significantly improved the tactical situation. On
the other flank, Kupiansk in the Kharkiv region. Here, fighting continues for every street and every building. Flags on the buildings change several times a day.
The situation in the Kupiansk direction has been stabilized. Moreover, even Russian sources note the lack of progress both in Kupiansk and accordingly in the direction of the Kupiansk railway junction.
Ukrainian forces are conducting a series of counterattacks. In particular, in the north of the city, the defenders managed to push back the occupiers. However, it's too early to speak of a definitive success. The situation remains dynamic and precarious. It changes literally every hour.
The defense forces, let's put it this way, carry out their tasks every day without stopping, constantly eliminating both small groups and halting columns of equipment. Therefore, in the near future, the dynamics, whether according to Deep State or other maps, I think will keep changing constantly, since in any case we are not going to abandon the city or hand it over to the enemy.
Pokrovsk and Kupiansk are the 2 points where the further course of the war is being decided. Russia is throwing thousands of soldiers and tons of metal there, but it is unable to break Ukrainian resilience. Every meter of this land is a fight for life, for the future. And while the enemy tries to win with sheer numbers, Ukrainian fighters are destroying those numbers.
And what do you think about the situation in Pokrovsk? We are waiting for your comments. More updates ahead. Stay informed about the main events and hit the like button under the video. Wishing you peaceful skies above.